Hey there everybody, it's Ampillion with one more. I'm knocking them out today. This one's another one from the March update thing that I had put up a few days ago. It is Little Computer People. This is probably one of my favorite Commodore 64. It's the only Commodore 64 game I remember off the top of my head what it's called. That because it was one of the ones I played the most on that system. It is pretty much like the precursor to The Sims from '85. So I mean, it was an awesome title from when I was six or 7 years old. I think is when I first started actually playing it. It was definitely one of the games that kind of prodded me into playing more Sims games, not Sims games, like SimCity, that sort of stuff. The EL Fish, which I may show off in a future video. It's not really much of a game per se, but it was one of those games that I hunted for like a bloodhound for months and months. Hitting like that Walmart's used to have like an actual computer computer software section, and I remember seeing it there one day and I was like, wow, hey, that's cool, and then it was gone and I never could see it again. But enough about EL Fish. This is Little Computer People, and you'll see that right now there's no Little Computer People anywhere. There's not much anything. It's just the house. So the house itself is pretty static. None of this will ever actually change other than him interacting with it. But the top floor has the TV, the record player, piano, and the typewriter, as well as a storage place for his games and his typing paper and stuff. Oop, the doorbell. He is here. The middle floor is the bedroom, the bathroom, and the computer room, as well as the lower level has the kitchen and the living room areas. As you'll see here, this is like the first time starting up the game. And the first time you start the game from a fresh file or a fresh, disk, whatnot, the little computer person in question will come out, kind of poke his head around in various things, and then proceed to move into the new house. He generally, what he'll do is he'll wander through and just ransack place. He will poke his head into cabinets, doors. He will leave a lot of them open. I don't know why, but they love to leave the front door open, which kind of disturbs me. Is a bad idea, Mr. Little Computer Person. They will wander around for several minutes at the beginning, and in fact I will eventually speed this up a bit so that, you can actually see him get this done, because it takes a while the first time around, yeah. Essentially any of the fixed objects in the house he will interact with, you can actually have him go and check out or play with. Such as the piano or the computer that's over there. The lamps, you can have them turn off the lamps. I believe that you can. I don't remember. I don't remember exactly, but I mean, if you can convince him to do it, he will do it. Worrying about there's no electricity bill in the Little Computer People world, so it's not a big deal to have him leave lamps on or TVs on or whatnot. You can have him turn off the TV and the record player, though, if you really don't like the sound of it, so there's always that. Until he actually goes out and gets his dog into the house, we cannot really interact with him. He pretty much just kind of wanders around and does whatever the hell he pleases. Until that happens, sometimes he'll bring in some clothing or furniture. Well, not furniture. He'll bring in some personal effects of some sort, and that's usually when the dog follows him in. Now, currently, he's still poking around in things. he generally won't mess with anything for too long. Yeah, he, for some reason, he turned on the TV, walked around, goes back up, turns it off. The game itself is pretty much just interacting with him. It's, like I said, it is a precursor to The Sims, but it's not the sort of game where you tell him what to do. There's no goal. There's not any, victory conditions or anything other than keeping him happy and, entertaining yourself with poking around and, watching him do his thing. It is pretty much like a... I think he makes like a kissing sound with the mirror if he likes his appearance. It is pretty much just like having a gerbil in a cage or a fish tank. It's a virtual person. It's sort of one of those virtual pet type things. You really can only do a few things with him, but the entertainment value of it is just kind of watching him do his own thing and wander around. So long as you keep his food and water in check and the dog's fed, you pretty much can leave it hands off, and he'll just do whatever. Now, occasionally, if you keep him happy and interact with him enough, he can just bust out games whenever he feels like it, and invite you to play him. You can always do that yourself by typing in commands. You can actually type in various phrases to encourage him to go do something. Now, depending on what his attitude is, it really determines on whether or not he'll do something. If you keep him happy, there's a good chance that he will always drop whatever he's doing, or drop whatever his current direction is to go do that thing that you ask him to do. However, if you constantly hound him to do one thing over and over again, then there's a good chance that he'll say no and he'll get angry, or he might go do something else. Now, he's disappeared and he will return with his dog eventually. The game itself was pretty unique in the fact that there's I want to say 250 or so different little computer peoples. Essentially, all that changes is the name and the look. The house is always statically the same for any disk that you put in there, any particular person that you use. And I can actually toss up a few links if anybody's really interested in messing around with it for the disk library. I also suggest, if you ever want to pick up this game and play it, to check out strategywiki.org, and it can tell you some of the commands for it. I'm going to turn the speed back down. It can tell you some of the commands, the hotkey commands, which are vitally important, because the only way to feed him and deliver food, water, and that sort of thing is by knowing the hotkeys. Most emulators is going to be probably like Control plus the key or Tab plus the key, though it really depends on what you set your key bindings to. The default for Vice is the Tab key, by the way. This command here is probably one of the most important ones, because having him write a letter is really the only way he can verbally communicate in a way that you can read, I guess. I mean, it's essentially a letter to you, and it kind of tells you what he's thinking, how he's feeling, what all he needs or wants to check out. You will notice there is a bit of lag whenever you actually give him sometimes a command to do, or a game starts up or whatnot. It's kind of like a loading lag. That's pretty normal to the emulator itself. It's 1911 because the game doesn't recognize the fact that there is actually a year 2000 or past. And this kind of tells you what his interests are. He will poke around with the TV a bunch. His books. He likes books and records and stuff. There's not really stuff in the game, but, he will mess around with just about anything. This particular one is named Eugene. And Eugene, I actually kind of looked at the names and stuff in the list. I was like, hey, Eugene, that's my grandfather's name. So I figured, hey, I haven't seen my grandpa in a while. I'm gonna put Eugene as my virtual computer guy. He's got kind of whitish hair, so I mean, my grandpa has what white hair, what little he has left. So hey, it works. I guess he might have a dog sometime. I don't know. He might have owned one at some point. Now, there are various things you can have him do, like I said, besides typing. You could have him go about and play pretty much anything. You can always have him light a fire in a fireplace. You can have him brush his teeth or take a bath. The doorbell noise means something's been delivered to the door. And I just delivered him a record with I believe it's the Tab R. Yes, Tab R. Or Control R, depending on your... that gives him more music selection. I don't know if it actually gives him additional tracks to play or whatnot. It just means that he has more records to interact with, and it's one of those things that sometimes they might request, hey, I want some new music, or one of those things you might just give him to perk him up if you're a particular computer person that happens to like music. He's working out in his room, which is something that they'll do if they happens to be sort of an active sort, and if they're feeling good. I mean, if they're happy, they will be much more likely to do that than if they are not happy. Hey, that fireplace looks empty. I wish I could do this. I believe you have to type please in front of everything. If you don't, I don't think it recognizes it. That, or it might just actually anger him, and he might not do it, or it might wear on his mood. Now, again, you can't really... There's no, numerical values for mood or any sort of meter that tells you. You just kind of have to look at his reaction. For some reason, every time you start a fire, he decides to give you some sort of conversation. I don't know if he's telling you that, fire's good, I like fire, or, maybe I should conserve the earth and, use an electric heater instead of a solar heater. I don't know. Well, this was 85. Nobody cared. He's probably burning large piles of money. I interrupted him again. I actually happened to notice that the dog went over towards the bowl and was hanging out there, and I was like, oh, hey, he doesn't have dog food, so let's deliver him some dog food. I don't remember how many uses one delivery of dog food has, but he will, refrigerate it after the first use. I think it's 3 or 4. But once you've delivered it, you just have to tell him, hey, please feed the dog, and he will walk down and feed it. I know it will anger him if you, tell him to feed the dog, even though there's dog food there. He will actually get over there and look at it and go, hey, what are you telling me to do this for? And here's one of the, main, interactive events with your dude. It's the cards, or playing games with him. The games you can play are really limited. I mean, I generally only play poker most of the time, but I show off Card War in this video. The poker is, of course, just straight up 5-card poker. Card War, if you've never played War with cards, it's essentially just a who's got the highest card, which doesn't translate well into, a computer game. It's hit the F1 key, which you'll see. Now, like I said, I did originally play this game when I was little. I guess probably about 7. And like I said, it's one of the only Commodore 64 games I really remember that really stuck with me. And it was just mostly because it was just sort of just one of those unique ideas, something that I didn't see for forever, probably until The Sims. I mean, there's not really another game like it. Now, it would have been nice had there been more interactivity, more things you could do with them, or even being able to buy and move furniture, a la The Sims. And I'm sure that's, if you look at some of the articles, I believe it's kind of where he got the, Will Wright got some of the ideas from this for The Sims. It's definitely a stepping stone, because, I mean, it has just enough interactivity that it could be considered a game, and yet you really don't even have to interact. You can just let him do his own thing. You can just have fun with it. You do have to kind of pay a little bit of attention, because there are sometimes that he will ask for your attention or want to play games or something. So you do need to kind of keep just enough eye on it that you're able to recognize when he actually needs something from you. But again, it is a lot like Animal Crossing type thing, and it does recognize what time it is. Every time you start the game up, it'll ask you for the time, and depending on that time, really limits or restricts the amount of activities you can do with him. Heck, if you start it up late at night, he's most likely to be asleep, and you can't really do anything. You can wake him up, which will piss him off, but I wouldn't suggest doing that. I am trying to find some. There are a couple other Commodore 64 games that I kind of wanted to check out that I do remember playing. The only real problem is the fact that I don't remember the titles for a lot of Commodore 64, even some of the early NES games. There's a few that were not really widely known games that I remember playing. That I'd love to play again, even just kind of show them off and say, hey guys, this is the kind of game I play. This is how this is the kind of stuff I grew up with. So this is why I'm a weird, goofy kind of person. And then I point at stuff like Milne's Secret Castle, and I'm trying to remember the name of. There was a NES game that you were sort of a musketeer-looking guy, and you went into this castle. And there were all sorts of different colored blocks. They were, I want to say there's 6 different colors, and you had to have 6 different colored keys to move around throughout this huge maze of a castle. I don't remember the name of it. You had to save somebody, and it was just a crazy giant maze that you had no hope of solving without poking around and failing a bunch. Well, I'll try finding that somewhere, but the only place I've found that has any real visual records wasn't really well updated. So I'm gonna close out here with patting the dude on the head, and we'll call it good for here. This has been Ampillion once again with another update. Shazam! I'm not dead yet. Have a good one, guys.